This conference will now be recorded.
All right, so today we'll start with data-driven testing, and we'll be utilizing MS Test for this. And we don't have to create uh, any specific methods to read and write or those things what generally we do. So before this, what we need, we have to modify a few things. Uh, so first thing, let me explain how it will be done. Maybe that will be better. So, mm, one second. So I'll draw a few things, and so what happens will for the request, uh, okay, for the request, we'll create a class. Okay, so this will be a class, and it will have some properties like, so in the same way like how what we created for the responses, like this create user DTO, list user DTO, so these were actually responses. So as we have to utilize RestSharp and JSON.NET, mostly JSON.NET, because earlier we saw like how we can deserialize that JSON into objects and verify. Now we have to see how we can serialize the data as an object we can send, and this JSON, which library we have used, that JSON.NET. Okay, right. So this library will be uh, converting those objects into a JSON format so that we can send the request. Okay, so one second, how would I change this? Mm, yeah, okay. Okay, so um, let us create. So under this data transfer object, earlier we directly created a class file. So better to okay, first we'll create a simple class which will be for the request method. So let us copy this. I can utilize the same class. Okay, and what I'll do, I'll change the name of this class, create user request. So going forward, will our DTOs will be defined as create user request, create user response. Okay, and better will be like create under DTO, create two folders, request and response, and place request all request class file into this, and the responses class file into the response folder. So that will be the good practice to have. So as we know, this class we need to change. Yeah, create request DTO. And if you remember that post method only takes these two things, right? If you see the regression test, right? This was our JSON file which we were sending to create a user. So when you convert this class into data transfer object, so it will be look like this. Okay, so directly I copied. Otherwise, we can use, as we have discussed earlier, about how to convert JSON into C# class. That website I think we can use and we can convert. But as it is simple, I just copied and uh, removed all the other properties and just kept the properties which are required for the JSON in the payload, right? So this is done. So that's what first thing we need to do. Okay, and after doing this, we need to go to API helper class, and here we have everything. Uh, we have serialize and deserialize. This is where we are doing deserialize of the object. So we need to create another method which will help us to serialize. So we'll send object, and this serialize method will convert that object into JSON formats. We were sending request and we were getting some response, and this response we were deserializing. Okay, see this respond dot content, and then content will deserialize. So deserialize means this is in I think this will be in the string format, right? And that will be deserialized into objects so that we can verify what we were doing here. So if you remember, uh, we were creating a object of this demo class, and then using this object we are verifying the properties value, right? So that's what we are doing while sending the request. Now we have to do the opposite. Now we'll send this object, we'll create one object of this class and send assign properties values and send this object to this payload as a payload. Okay, so when you go to payload, some methods should be there which can serialize uh, objects into a respective JSON file. So whatever earlier we did, we need to do the opposite thing right now. Uh, Currently, what we'll do, we'll suppose we created this class, right? Create user request. So we'll create this object, and we'll assign whatever the properties we are reading from the CSV file to this property, and this property name and job, and this will send to the serialize uh, method, which will serialize into JSON format, into JSON file, and then that file will be sent to the server to process the request. So basically, to converting uh, serializing and deserializing, we are utilizing one. If you remember, Nugget package we are using, that is JSON.NET, right? So that is the main purpose of using that serialize and deserialize. It expose those methods which are useful for us here. All right, so let us write that method. It will is returning a string. I'll say serialize. Okay, and I can dynamic content. Okay, so this content will be passing here whatever the uh, objects we map with some values, that will be sent here. And I can say serialize. Okay, and JSON convert, it has method serialize object. So it says serialize the specified object to a JSON string. Okay, that's what it does. And it here we need to send this thing. There is a overloaded method we need to use. That content we need to send, right? And the formatting we need to send, formatting dot uh, intended. So this one we need to use causes child object to indent according to the JSON text writer. Okay, so we need to do this. Okay, and then we have to return this, right? So that's what one method we need to add in API helper. So that's part it done. Now we have to go to this demo class. As we have mentioned, like for each API you need to create a different method in this here. Now this create user will get a payload as a objects. So somewhere in the we need to utilize this API helper method we just created, that is serialize. Okay, so just say like now this is my request. Just I say request, or I can say JSON request, something, some variable name I'll give so that I'll remember what the purpose of it. So JSON request, and here I'll call, because already we are creating the object of this. So this API class already exposes those methods. So user now will use this serialize, right? And here we need to pass the content. So we'll pass this payload to here. Better to just name it content, so that will be better, I guess. And here we'll pass content. Oh, already we are using one more. Okay, let's keep it the same way. Will not change much. Okay, now so here we'll pass this payload. Okay, so this will go, and this serialized object will return as a JSON for us, and then this JSON will send for this create post request. Okay, so here it is clear to you, right? From the this method will accept the objects, and this method will convert those whatever the object mapping we have done into a JSON format, and this JSON will send to this create post request, right? So that's the plan. So see, if we go to this method, it method gets the payload, and then it sends the request here through here, right? And it process the and return the request to this. Uh, yeah, it will process and return the request to us, which we can utilize later part in the respective methods. So this post method is still uh, will use the JSON only. Earlier, from the test, we are sending JSON. Now we change the process. Will not send this JSON from the test method. Will utilize some CSV files, and in place of this hard-coded JSON, we will utilize the serialize method, which we are doing here. We are calling here. So this will serialize and give us a JSON. So in place of writing everything in the test script, now we are utilizing the uh, more dynamic, and whenever required, we just send the and serialize this into a JSON. Now let's go to the part of the test data. So I'll go to this API test project, and better to have the test data in the same project, where which one is your what I can say, uh, unit test project, that your test project. Okay. And how to add a CSV file? Right click, new item, and this text file I think we can utilize. So I can say test case dot CSV. Okay. uh 1 second. Okay, I'll explain one, I think one problem we get when we create this way, but okay. Now, JSON file, currently this post request require two properties, but if based on your requirement, you can create a very lengthy data here as well. So first row will be your properties name, like name, job, and whatever, just using this delimiter comma, you can just name it all the properties in that request. Okay, currently we have only two, so I'll use this. Now here goes the data, mic, lead, and based on like this, you can just have all the data here in the row 2. So let us do for this single data, and then we'll multiple data we can add later part. Okay, so that we added. Now let's go to, now we have to till the framework level handling. I think we did. Let us go to comment this. Mm, okay, so before that, what we need to do, we need to uh, read this CSV file, right? So to read, we can utilize this some of the this unit test project of the Visual Studio provides a lot of things for us. So deployment item, and here we need to provide, see what this takes. So this takes path where we kept this CSV file. Okay, so I think first method we can utilize. So initialize instance of the deployment item attribute class. Okay, so where we kept this file. Okay, so as we created in the root of this project, I don't need to provide I can just provide the relative path, and it will figure out like where I have this file. So just I need to provide the folder structure, this test data, and then test case dot CSV. Okay. Then we need to provide the data source. Okay, so it specifies a connection string. We need to provide table name, a row access method for data driven testing. Okay, so this data source we need to utilize, and here we need to provide few things. First, I'll show you the sum overloaded method. Okay, so here the third overloaded method we will use of this data source attribute. Provider invariant name, which will be like uh, the connection string, basically this one, and the table name is the our CSV file name, and there is a specific format we need to provide for the data access method. Okay, so I'll just explain. So the connection string is you can find, we can find on the Microsoft documentation this thing, uh, Visual Studio, I guess. Mhm. and if I remember correctly, test tools. Mm, yeah, I guess. And the data source, and we need to provide which data source we are utilizing. Okay, so we can utilize different data sources, and here I think we can provide, because we are using CSV file, so that we can provide. And then the table name means the file name we need to provide here. Okay, and then there is a uh, provider name, connection string, table name. Okay, yeah, I think this is the provider name. This. Okay, so the table name, I think there is a format how we provide this uh, test case, and we need to provide uh, this sign hash and then CSV under the double quotes. Okay, and why it is throwing this Microsoft Visual Studio CSV till here it is fine. Uh, add here. So data access method, if you click dot, it selects at random. So it picks random values, but if you click, we need to select here sequential. So it will read line by line. Okay, so that's what we require. Okay. I think yeah. So we need a deployment item, the your file name, and this data source where we have connection string, that table name, and the how we are going to access this CSV file. Okay, so yeah, I think we'll be good here. So along with suppose in your project you require some other files which you need at the runtime, what you can do, we can I can pass Chrome driver exe or any other file which is required. I can pass through this deployment item. Okay, so okay, so let us do thing. I think this is part is done. This is done. So before test method, I think we need to add these if we want to read the CSV file. Okay, this part is done. Let's go to so now I need to create this create user request DTO object. Okay, so I can say users uh, new create user request DTO. Okay, so this object I need to create. Okay, and this expose the this object will expose the properties name and job and name, whatever we have added in this file, this create request, right? We have two things. So first thing is users dot name, right? So how to read the value of this CSV file? Okay, so for to read this we need to utilize this test context. Okay, and then a data row. Okay, and in data row we need to provide the CSV file column names, right? Name, jobs that we need to provide under data row. Okay, and to string, that's we need to convert into a string. So this is what we need to do, and same thing we need to do for the other properties. So whatever the properties you have, you need to map this way. Okay, so test context dot data row, and now we have job. Try to give the exact name whatever you give in the CSV file. Okay, now I can pass this object as a here, okay, to this demo method. And this demo method, if you go to create user, now this users object is that's why I kept here payload, so we don't need to worry about like what kind of parameter we are passing. Earlier we are passing a string. Okay, now we are passing the object, so it will handle both things. So it will pass object, and this line will do convert that object into JSON, and then this JSON will pass to the request. So that's what we need to do. Yeah, this exposes uh, everything about test name and various things it exposes. So here we have this data row. Okay, data row say gets the current data row when test is used for data driven testing. Okay, so for data driven testing we need to use this, and yeah, we need to pass the property name, a column name what we utilize into CSV file. So that's how we read data from the CSV file. You need to provide these two lines, one line actually, and then you need to add this thing. So even you don't need to create an object. I can directly create a variable, create a string variable. I can map it, right? So that's also we can do. Suppose you are not using in the API, you are using for the Selenium UI test. You can just var one, and you can get the data from CSV file like this way. So same funda will apply to the data driven testing in case of Selenium also, and this data will be passed to the wherever we require in the Selenium part. So now you see we don't uh, have any hard coded data in my script. So everything is we are maintaining in separate files, and that is a good approach also. Okay, now let us debug, and let's see what is happening. Is it working? I know there is some problem, I'll tell you, but I didn't tell you those problems. So I wanted to tell what the problem we face if we create this way. That's why I did not tell it initially. Okay, let's debug, and it will throw error, most probably. Let's see. Hmm, what happened? Okay, it's running, I guess. Still running. Yeah, it failed. So if I go to better to observe from here. Okay, now debug again, and then we'll see what is happening. It started running, and it failed. And if you scroll down to the just see the why it is failing, it is saying like a unit test adapter. Yeah, this unit test. Okay, Okay, let's fail to uh, fail to connect to the data source or read the data. Okay, for troubleshoot. So it is not able to connect with the data source whatever we have provided as CSV file, and the reason for that uh, is when we create there's an encoding problem when we create like the way we have added a CSV file here. There's one problem. Another problem, I think I'll not tell right now. Okay, let's see if that resolves. Okay, so what I need to do, I let open this CSV file. Okay, and can I save this way? No. Okay, let me go to here and save this CSV file as, okay. Here, if you just click save with encoding. Okay, so from the Visual Studio, go to file, save as. So what I clicked, yes. Now if you do this, you need to remove this UTF-8 with signature, and most probably I think if I use this one, anything I think that will be fine, and just click OK. Now let's run it again. So that was the one problem we need to resolve. That will be for the only one file, because our next file you can just copy and paste it here itself. Now let's see what is happening. Coding issue, when I was working on it, I faced this problem. I searched a lot, so few forums I went, and then someone has written like there's an encoding issue. So we get when you create directly from the Visual Studio. So to resolve that, you can go to open that file in Visual Studio, go to File, Save As. Okay, and then this save with encoding. Okay, so it will say you want to replace. Yes, I want to replace, and select. It will be UTF-8 coding. So you need to select some other one. Like I selected, suppose this ISO or I5. Anything you can select. Mm, So I didn't know the exact region of these encodings, but that's how it is mentioned to resolve. So that's okay. Let again debug this. This side, this time it should not fail. Let's see. Yeah, I think this time it's working. So now the problem, earlier the problem was here. It was not able to connect with the data source, so that problem is resolved. Now it's working. So let's see, make it confirm. So here we got the name is Mike, which is reading from this text CSV file, and next is lead. What we have in this, right? Mike and lead. It is reading correctly, so we are fine here. Now, so we have mapped with this object. Okay. Now, what I'll do, I'll go to this. Okay. Now see I'll create the object of this. I'd said the UR would create the client, and now I'll uh, uh, debug into this serialize. Now this content is, if you just mouse over, is job, name and job, right? Okay, so this method now will serialize for us, and let's see what it returns. See, it returns a JSON for us, right? Name
Yeah.
and lead. So this return a JSON for me, and you see the name, curly braces, name, Mike, then comma, job, lead. So it converted that content what we pass from here as objects into a JSON file. Okay, now we'll go back. Now this is the JSON request. So we stored in a variable, and this will pass for this post method. Okay. Now we'll get, and now we can this response also return the mic. So this will pass, and now we can run the all the test other steps of this. That yeah, currently what I think that this way I think you can publish, or if you want to add some other sorry, some other way how we can add like a different method. uh, okay, so in place of just a log, here you can pass as a info. Okay, and uh, test data for name is something like this. We can use um, users dot name. Okay, okay, now if suppose when you read data, that time only just I'll remove from here. Okay, and from here also. So when you read the data from the file, just that time only just need to add to the report. That also another way I think we can achieve this. Okay, so this will just for the information. We are not saying like this passed or failed. This is just for the information. Yeah. So let me refresh this file. So info we added test data for name is Mike. So same way you can add the different data first and then the validations. Suppose test the user, I can say, and test role. So this is the second test data. Only in this kind of when we have multiple data, we'll have this problem like these assertions will fail, and I didn't get like how to. So what will happen? First time it will pass, but the second, let me run. I'll show you what the problem is. For the one set of data, either you don't validate those here when you are asserting. So why it is failed? It is failed because of the assertions. Okay, see the assertion is failed because the it is reading this first time it passed, but the second time when it reading the second line actually is test user, but it is still expecting Mike because we have because all the test step whatever we have in this in what here we made sequential, right? So it will read line by line. First it will read in the first row, then second row, and it will execute all the uh, statements written inside this script uh, one by one, means two times, because we have two data now. So only that problem will have. So what we can do, either comment all these and don't need assertions here, because you can assertion you can apply here whatever you want. Also I see the problem with the but let's see now. Let me put the debug here, breakpoint. I'll show you it's going for the two data in this case when we pass the here. Okay, so okay, so first time here what we see Mike, right, and job is lead. So let me press F5 again. It run the first time and then again come back and stop here, and this time it reads the second row, and that is test user, and the job is test role, right? And again if I press 5 it will, so it's running two times, each and every statements it's running two times. But assertions if you have, that will create a problem for us, because now we have multiple data sets. Okay, so I think yeah, see it ran for two, it will record as a two test cases. It ran two times. For the first time the test data was Mike, for the second time data is test user, right? So this way you can have multiple test data, and for each data you will have the report also in the different executions. Okay,
Mhm.
so only issue I see here, if you don't add assertions for the specific uh, but that assertion is also required, but in case of multiple data sets I think we need to compromise somewhere. Or no, it's not creating post one, it's actually handling all about this create user endpoint, like setting the end client. Inside this actually we are sending this post request.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure, we can see. So let us I can here also I think you can. Okay, so for each you want to see the response, right? For this is the just sample, I think they are showing here. um, Let me open this. Maybe I don't know on which page number it will be.